Point the bike downhill and oh my goodness, it really does eat things up. It means that the back end is super quiet. Mainstream brand, this is pretty progressive really. Hey everyone, this is Andy from Singletrack magazine, and today we're looking at an all new bike from Specialized. It's the Specialized Stumpjumper Evo Carbon. This is the 27.5 inch version of the bike. Now, if you've been keeping an eye on Specialized for the past year or so, or watching or reading Will's reviews, you'll have seen that he actually tested the alloy version of this bike last year. So the idea is the same. We've got a longer reach, we've got slacker head angle, but this time it's made of all carbon. We've got a carbon front triangle and a carbon rear end. And Specialized call this a FACT 11M frame. And that means it's got some really nice features and it has a really lovely naked finish. So features include internal cable routing and hose routing for your dropper post gears and all those other gubbins. You've got a lovely little SWAT door here just below the bottle cage. This opens up and you have room for an inner tube or snacks or other bits and bobs. We've got a really cool asymmetric rear end on here. We've seen a few different bike brands use this idea, but Specialized are using it here. We've got on the drive side, we've got this strut, but on the non-drive side, there's nothing there. It's a really cool idea, and it means from either side, it looks a bit different. It's a really lovely design feature. At the back here, just on the chainstay, we've got this rubberized chain guide. And this is actually similar to some of the downhill teams are using this year and last year. And it does provide really good damping for that chain. It means that the back end is super quiet. In fact, I've taken this bike out for a quick ride on Friday, and it is really quiet. Probably one of the most quiet bikes I've ridden for a long time. So spec-wise, feature-wise, we've got 150 millimeters of travel front and rear. And on this pro-level bike, we've got a Fox 36 Performance Elite fork on the front, and we've got a Fox DHX2 coil on the rear. Now, the coil shock on this bike does have a lockout, so climbing is a bit more efficient. But open that up, point the bike downhill, and oh my goodness, it really does eat things up. It's super supple, really lovely rear suspension, and as I've mentioned, extremely quiet. This bike will actually tackle things that you wouldn't think were capable other than on a downhill bike. It's really capable. Obviously, being such a capable bike, and a fast bike for that matter, we've got pretty progressive geometry on here. And I mean, this is progressive for Specialized, but it's also progressive for most other brands too. Reach figures on this bike, which is the S2, which is roughly a medium-large frame, is 465 millimeters in its low suspension setting, its low head angle setting, or 470 in its high setting. And that also affects the head angle. So we've got a 63.5 degree head angle when it's in its low setting, or a 64 degree head angle in its high setting. So that's pretty slack, pretty long. Obviously there are longer, slacker bikes on the market, but for a mainstream brand, this is pretty progressive, really. This is the S2 version. If you're taller than, if you're my height or taller, so I'm 178 centimeters, I would personally go for the S3, which is a slightly longer bike, and that has a reach of between 490 and 495. Sounds a lot, but you do have this really short stem on here, and you can roll the bars back a little bit. When I rode this bike, I found it was a little bit short. I was riding off the back a bit, so the longer bike might be a bit better. Okay, specification-wise of this bike, we've got quite a lot of Specialized kit on here. We've got a Specialized handlebar, we've got a Specialized stem, and in the steerer tube, we've got a SWAT tool. And I think this is very similar to the tool that Will just tested if you head over to Singletrack magazine. It's just an Allen key, and it's got a torque bolts on there for your disc brakes and stuff. And that just hides away in the steerer and just locks away with that little cap there. A really neat little feature. We've got Roval Traverse carbon wheels. Like as I've mentioned already, they're 27.5 inch. They've got an internal rim width of 30 millimeters. And those wheels are shod with Butcher grid tires, front and rear. Now I've tested this bike only in the dry, and I found the tires good. They're fast rolling, they grip quite well, but I have heard that when things get a bit wetter, they do tend to slide out a little bit. So it might be something to look at if you were thinking about this bike. You might want to put something like a Hillbilly or something on the front for a bit more grip. We've got Deity grips on here. They're not Specialized brands. I'm not sure why they've gone for Deity grips, but they're very, very comfortable grips. And we've got a cable operated dropper post here as well. This is the Specialized command dropper post. It has 160 millimeters of drop on there, so plenty to get that seat out of the way. And is not quite an infinity adjust post. You've actually got 16 micro adjustments, so 16 points of engagement on here. And when you're using it, it feels like an infinite dropper post, but you do hear those little clicks now and again. So it does lock into certain positions. And it has quite an aggressive action. So if I just pop my notebook on here and go to this side, it's quite an aggressive and fast action, but don't worry though, when you're riding it, it doesn't try and chop you in half. It feels all right. You do have to control it with your bottom, but it's all right. It's actually not a bad thing to have. Other features on this bike are a full SRAM GX 1x12 speed group set. We've got the GX shifter, GX rear mech and cassette, and we've also got a dub crank and bottom bracket on there. So you've got a fast, aggressive, lightweight bike. So Specialized have very cleverly given this bike very, very powerful 4-pot brakes. We've got Code RSC brakes from SRAM on there. Really great, got some nice adjustment on there, really good bike point adjustment and everything. So all in all, it's a great package. It's very lightweight. It looks very nice. It's got this nice UD finish. Carbon, there's no paint or lacquer on here, and if you look really closely you can just make out the different panels and pieces of carbon used to put the frame together. So a really well thought out bike, really good looking bike, and it's a very fun bike too, quite progressive. If you're looking for something from a main brand that you can go to a store and buy, something that's fast, aggressive, almost like a downhill bike that you can pedal uphill, well worth looking at one of these. Head over to Singletrack website now and you can read the first ride review. And yeah, if you've got any questions, please ask us in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe or here. And that's all. Thank you very much. Goodbye. Bear Carbon. It sounds like I'm being cool. Bear Carbon! Yeah, it's a naked bear. It's almost like a marble, isn't it? Squidgy, squidgy stuff.